that beat Tulane. Byron Brown becomes the first to go 5 straight games, 200 passing yards, 80 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown in 5 straight games. That guy is legit. I sort of feel like, I think one of you, maybe it was you, Lance, said it on the show earlier this week, that South Florida team, when it's all said and done, looks like they'll be the team that ends up standing in the college football playoffs.
They will win out. They will end up beating probably Memphis in a rematch of the American. And I think in that game, they're probably going to be a 6 or 7 point favorite. I mean, they dominated that game. How they lost to Memphis is still head scratching. But I think head and shoulders. And when you just look at, I saw a blind resume of the Group 5s the other day. And by
far, maybe my favorite 30, 45 minutes of the week when I get to catch up with my man from the Midwest, the Rocky Mountains, the one and only Brock Heward. I cannot wait to see what kind of shenanigans he got into this past weekend. I think they had a bye, Titus's team. We're going to talk NFL. We've got a great matchup tonight with the Eagles and Packers. We'll go back. We'll recap. Although the late Sunday window was garbage for a lot of people, I loved it because my team was one of those dominant 3 teams that won going away. Your team was one of those dominant teams with what the Seahawks were able to do to the Cardinals up in the Pacific Northwest. But we've got to start, and welcome aboard, by the way. Tell me how the weekend laid out.
First time I've been called a Midwest guy. I don't know if Colorado, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't
Southwest,
either.
although there's parts of it. It's not the Midwest. There's parts of it. It's not the West. So I don't think you're wrong, but I don't know if I've ever been qualified or quantified as a Midwest guy. I'm kind of digging it.
Yeah, I just know you were in the Midwest last week when you were in the RV and you took it to Lincoln and you went to the blackout in USC. They win that game, and I thought Friday night shouldn't have been as tricky as it was. But, the one play that – and Jason Benetti, your former partner in crime there on the broadcast, and now RG3 has got your seat with you taking this year and maybe the next couple of years off to coach your son, which is awesome. You got brought up a ton on this broadcast after your nephew, Sam Heward, comes in. It fooled me. I didn't realize that it wasn't Sam Johnson. And when you look at them side by side, I mean, there's obviously a different look. Sam Johnson's a bigger dude, a little thicker. But what a pass from Sam Heward. I thought it was Bush League. I didn't know what you thought. If they don't convert that and they eventually go down and go up 14-7, I think the game, that play and then Maeva, the tackle he makes to knock the ball out, it goes through the end zone and they get it back. It should have been a pick 6. Those 2 plays were the difference in that game. They end up winning by 21, 38-17. But I thought Northwestern, man, I mean, that team, they don't have the athletes, but they can tackle. But back to that one specific play, I know it was your nephew. I know you've got a lot of people involved in that program, but did you think it was Bush League?
I don't know if it was Bush League. It was certainly in the gray, right? And Mike Pereira has come out afterwards, and in the rule book, it is fairly black and white, but in real time, and it's been done before. I think, Lincoln said a few years prior, he had seen somebody do it. Damon, older brother, went on some national radio and said, this play has actually been in since the Michigan game. So I knew of it then that Sam was repping that, and he let me and Titus know, like, hey, if we get the situation between the 40s, I'm going to be wearing number 80, and I get to throw it as a punter, and it could be a big play. So I've known it's been in a few weeks. It was out a few weeks, depending on opponent and the scheme they were facing. And I've honestly kind of felt like a bad friend, not only to Benetti, but to Bo and to Darren and the producers and the directors, because it happened. And we were at dinner. Molly and I were on a dinner date, and right away my phone starts blowing up. And Benetti's like, "Oh, I'm in big trouble. I'm in big trouble when you see this." And then to get back in the second half and see how much he was still bothered by it, because you got to understand, Lance, he is like a pro's pro. He never ever wants to screw up a name, a number. When you compare his hit rate to his peers, He is, I don't know, Juan Soto. He's Otani. He is at a different
fantastic.
level.
And you guys look in
yes.
RG3. I mean, he's kind of a polarizing guy. I thought he was better on this broadcast, but we miss you. But I think Benetti is one of the best in the business, and he had fun with it. But your name came up a million times, and I just, as important as that play was, and you got to win these games in advance. And I said the same thing about Texas earlier today. Those aren't impressive wins against Kentucky and Mississippi State. But you survive in advance, and you look up, and all of a sudden you're number 10. Now you look up USC as a top 20 team that can end up, if they win out, they're in the college football playoff. I would have liked for them to save that for a game in Autzen against Oregon. When you might really, really need the big play. Like, you've got enough talent, and again, maybe they don't win this game without that, but it's Northwestern.
Yeah, and some of that is scheme too, Lance, where you're like, well, you hold it, and then the following week, well, the team plays a different structure, right? Or they don't show any tendency to leave the guy. It just, so if you got it and you got that pitch, you throw it, and it's been in the works for a while. It won't be called again. I think that's been made abundantly clear after the fact, that there will be no more, sharing a number at the same position at punter and doing that moving forward. But yeah, pretty cool for Sam, Lance. Like, it's been a wild journey. It's like a lot of these quarterbacks that come out of high school, highly thought of, and aren't in the right fit or the right situation. They bounce and they bounce and they bounce. So for him to have that night, that conversation, to hold the sword on the ladder after the game, yeah, pretty neat stuff for him. And then, yeah, I mean, the USC is dangerous, bro. They're dangerous. And I would say, if anything, Lance, the last 3 weeks or so, really following the Notre Dame loss, I have seen, I don't know what your eyes have seen, but my eyes have seen a more violent defense. And for 4 years, that's been the problem. When I called those games in person, whether it was Utah in the championship game, Utah in the regular season, home and away, like, they weren't physical enough. And I've thought for the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've had more of a stinger. There have been more, whoa, wow, oh, you blasted that sucker. You blasted the QB. Wow, you actually imposed a level of violence that they haven't seen around there since the 2000s. So to me, that's the most positive. That will play. That will match up this week with Iowa. And then you mentioned the trip to Eugene, which will likely be for all the marbles for a playoff spot.
Yeah, real quick, and we'll get off USC because I know a lot of people are like, stop, don't want to hear it anymore. But, when Wayman Jordan went down, I was like, damn, they're going to be in trouble. King Miller's been fantastic. I think Lake McCree utilizing a tight end has been very important. Maiva's been a little off, but I agree. Defense has gotten better, and now you're playing an Iowa offense that's really one-dimensional. They're coming off a really physical, emotional loss, in bad conditions to Oregon. So we'll see how that game plays out. But they are very, very much in the mix. I'll tell you who shouldn't be in the mix, and we were talking to this with your former colleague, Joel Klatt, earlier, is just the ACC in general. And I do want to ask you what your TV setup looks like now, because I watch a lot of Fox, because my YouTube TV situation with the contract dispute with ESPN and ABC, it has forced me to use Sling this past weekend. But with all my TV setups, I can only have Sling on one TV because it throws it off the other, which is a big pain in the ass. With all that said, one of the reasons I didn't see Virginia or Louisville lose this past week, but the ACC is a complete mess. Have you ever seen a Power Four conference where nobody wants the auto bid?
Ooh, that's a good question. I know that the Pac-10 for a lot of years, and this goes back to, I think, the start of you and me chatting, and when you guys were in the previous iteration of your show, would have me on. And remember a number of times driving over the 520 bridge in Seattle to my morning show and chatting with you guys, and just like, yeah, I mean, the Pac-10 is going to cannibalize itself. Like, the Pac-10 is just going to devour itself. It's just the way it goes. And they play all the conference games, and they don't have a lot of cupcakes, late in the year, especially. They don't do what the SEC does, and yada, yada, yada. But that felt more like from almost a position of strength, right? That felt from, and I saw a tweet the other day, maybe you had seen it, about like 3 years ago in the Pac-10, the quarterbacks. Pac-12, 10 of the 12 are in the NFL. Like, it was a good conference with frontline guys and Heisman Trophy winners and first-round picks. It doesn't feel that way in the ACC. It just you don't get that sense. And Clemson don't have first-round guys. They got some dudes and there's some athletes, but there just is not the consistent offense. There's not the consistent dominant quarterback play. There's just not anything to really sink your teeth in. And yeah, I think over the course of the season, it's exposing itself that there's not even an elite team out of that batch, and now they're going to be fortunate to get their ACC champion in the playoff.
This might be an easy answer for you, but you talked about the elite quarterbacks and what the Pac-12 had and all of those guys now starting in the league. One quarterback, one game now. I asked you this early in the season. You went Arch Manning. That was a big swing and a miss. I'll give you time to redeem yourself as we head into week 12 of the college football season. I mean, a lot of people are going to say Julian Say, and he's completing 81% of his passes, but we haven't seen him in critical moments. Like Ty Simpson has had critical moments where he's had to lead his team down and convert big third, even fourth downs. You saw it this past week with Mendoza on the road against Penn State. Some of those throws he made on that final drive. Trinidad Chambliss.
I mean, those would be the
really
three,
good.
right?
Okay.
Those would be the three, and obviously they spearhead 3 of the 4 top teams in the country. You know, we had Trent Green on our radio show leading up to the Seahawks game this last weekend, and he was right. You know, he's talking about system quarterbacks, and people talking about Sam Darnold. Wow, he's just a system quarterback. He just needs the people around him. And Trent's like, you know, save for Mahomes and Allen and maybe Lamar. Come on, man, on planet Earth. Everybody else is a system quarterback. You got to fit in the right system with the right people around you. Do you think you could pluck Julian Sayin off of Ohio State and he could go to any number of schools in the top 15 and he'd be an 80% passer? Absolutely not. He is a part and a product of that system with that personnel and the people around him and playing unbelievably complimentary ball. When Mendoza was at Cal, was he this caliber of player? Absolutely not, because he had a Cal offensive line and a Cal system and Cal people that created great inconsistency. Ty Simpson watched for 4 years until he got his opportunity and even had a speed bump to start the year, but they've grown together and he fits in this system. And Kalen and Grubby have done a great job of maximizing his strengths in this system. So I don't think there's an overwhelming talent in this draft, Lance. I don't know if any of those guys in my book are number 1 picks. Maybe Julian will be a year from now after a couple years of starting. But I know they're system quarterbacks and they're flourishing in their systems that bring about their greatest strengths. And to pick one of them for me, yeah, I'd probably lean into the older guys. I would lean into Ty or I would lean into Mendoza because of the scar tissue, because of the mental toughness, because of the emotional fortitude, because I don't think things are too big for them. So I'd probably lean into one of those 2 guys to hitch my wagon to.
You are very familiar with John Mateer. Look, although Oklahoma's still very, very much in the mix, 7-2, they're heading into Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama, 2:30 ABC game. Mateer hasn't had that big game. Look, he had the surgery. It hasn't been the same, but he's still a really dangerous quarterback. And this Oklahoma defense, they are a top 5 rush defense, dominant. Alabama can't run the football. And I wanted to ask you, so looking ahead to this game, first of all, Alabama averaging, I think, 114, 115 yards per game rushing, coming off a performance where they only go 56 rushing yards against LSU. You saw this with DeBoer, even playing for a national championship. They didn't wow you with the rushing numbers. How big of a concern is this? And especially when you're going against a dominant defense like Oklahoma with a quarterback that at any moment can have a career game.
Yeah, I think it's a dangerous way to play, not just this weekend, Lance, but championship football is complementary football. It is and always has been at the NFL level. That is matriculated down to the college level. And you're going to get into environments with possibly some weather later this year or into the playoffs, right? Where, you know, it's going to be difficult and you've got to be able sometimes to ground and pound. That was one of the challenges a year ago with the Seahawks and Ryan Grubb. When you live in the shotgun and you do as much, you know, tempo stuff from the gun that they do, I would challenge you a little bit on that national title team. Because while it was Penix and Rome and Jalen and the rest of them, Dylan Johnson was 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, I knew that.
I mean, they could run the ball, and they're 2 NFL tackles and in their tight end group, and they could set edges, and they were they were very productive in big time moments when they had to run the ball. So that will come into and what happens with that when you are one dimensional and don't have that balance. You have what Alabama's had this year, a lot of close games. What the SEC has had this year, a lot of one-score close games. And more than likely with Oklahoma, it'll be a one-score close game. I know it was 10 points this weekend, but in many respects, it felt almost still like a one-possession game. So, yeah, Mateer's not been the same. That thumb injury, I don't care what you say. You have surgery in season. A bye week may help, but he just accuracy-wise has not been the same. But the dude's got a little Manziel to him. I mean, he's got a little flair and he loves to run and he's got some charisma and guys believe in him. And that is, yeah. What's the early line on that game? It's got to be less than a touchdown, right?
Which game are you talking about?
The Oklahoma
yeah,
Bama game.
Bama 6.5.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Yep, that feels about right.
Yeah.
And,
but that's scary for Alabama. Now, Alabama can drop that, and as long as they beat, Auburn at the end of the year, they're going to be in the college football playoff. But you don't want to go to Jordan-Hare with the way Auburn's offense played, with an interim coach in DJ Durkin, with everything on the line. That is a bad situation. Speaking of everything on the line, your alma mater this past weekend, it was one of my cool moments of the weekend that Luke Fickell gets kind of the vote of confidence, at least for the remainder of this year. And his players go out. They were awful offensively still, 2 of 14 on third downs, 205 total yards. But they win the game against your Huskies. We had Clad on, and he thought that Jedd Fisch kind of yucked this up, maybe being distracted by the Florida job. Have you heard anything about Jedd Fisch and interest in Florida?
Well, Florida, UCLA, there's been some smoke with that one as well. And, some of that is born out of Lance, the fact that Jed's wife was not a fan of Bellevue in Seattle. And so she's moved and has taken the daughters to live back in Tucson and kind of out of the market. So that's raised some eyebrows like, that doesn't feel real sustainable when your other half doesn't want to be in the market that you're coaching in. It's
a problem.
Yeah. That's a big deal. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. When the AD, Pat Chun, didn't hire you, Troy Dannon at Nebraska did. And, is Pat Chun and Jed always on the same page? No. Are their personalities vastly different? Yes. But his Jed, bottom line, brought in some great talent and developed that talent and done some good things. Yes. And at home, they've been phenomenal. But on the road, 1-7 in Big Ten play in 2 years is untenable. I mean, it's just untenable. And that was a game you just had to win ugly. Like just win the game. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what the numbers are. Damon, don't fumble at your 5-yard line. Don't throw a pick. Don't get your kick blocked. Don't find ways to lose. That was much more about the Huskies finding ways to lose than it was about the Badgers finding a way to win. And because of it, your playoff hopes are now down the toileto.
Okay, so as we transition to the NFL, some breaking news just a little bit ago, and I'm sure you saw this and nobody was surprised. Brian Dable is out as the head coach of the New York Giants, former offensive coordinator under Nick Saban. I brought up the fact that there's probably going to be 6-7 jobs open in the NFL at the end of the year. We know the Titans are already open. Help me out here. What else are we going to have for sure? Probably Cleveland.
Miami's going to come open eventually. They fired the GM.
But this might be the most appealing job when you look at Jackson Dart with Scatterbo coming back, if he is 100%, Malik Neighbors with what they do defensively attacking the quarterback. Yep. I think this is a hell of a job. Do you think there are current active college coaches that would be in the mix for this job?
I think a Ryan Day would be, and I think the NFL has piqued his interest. Obviously, his good buddy Chip left him, and it's not gone real well in Vegas. That might be another one of those jobs. There's been some smoke and some fire that, maybe Spytek and Brady just, need to make a move, and that thing's been a disaster. And if they go 3-14, that one's probably open as well. So we know on average, 5 a year in the NFL? I think you're going to get to that number and maybe 6. And yes, I think from quality of ownership to the defensive group that they have, to some of the star player talent, and what Jackson has shown and the difference he is between some of these other people on the roster, including Russell, that looks totally done. Yes, that would be very intriguing. Ryan Day, I know, has had some interest in the past in the NFL. I have heard that from both kind of sides of the equation. Lincoln Riley, to me, from a play calling, play structure, quarterback development, has always been A1. I know NFL people have been intrigued by him from that perspective. So there's going to be certainly some names at the college level. But I'll say this too, Lance, like Dable, Mike McDaniel, these guys are going to be great coordinators. And I think if we learn anything, like there is a difference between a CEO and a play caller coordinator. And those guys are great coordinators, but to be the CEO, still a very, very difficult job to do.
You typically ask me how we did at Lance's Log for the week, and we had a really good week. Well, we get up yesterday morning, and we've been killing the NFL, and we had the Falcons over in Germany, and they end up getting the cover. Jonathan Taylor was fantastic, and the Colts get the win. Falcons get the cover, but then I only had 2 more games the rest of the day. And, I'm sending out the humble tweets and, talking about how we've been dominating. Then I play Minnesota at home catching 4.5 against the Ravens, who are, everybody's darling now with Lamar Jackson back. And then the game I specifically wanted to ask you about, I've got the Jags -1.5 playing a backup quarterback in Davis Mills. They are up 19 points in the fourth quarter against a backup quarterback, and they lose that game. You played in this league. How is that even possible?
Yeah, same reason that the Broncos came back and beat the Giants when they were down a huge, a monumental win. Like, I forget the number. It was like into the thousands. That you win. You win that game with 6 minutes to go and up what they were. You win that game yesterday if you're Jacksonville until you don't, until you screw it up. Right? That old adage of more games are lost than truly won. And you get in those situations. And if you don't throw a pick or you don't fumble the ball or you just gain a first down and you just keep the clock moving and execute instead of taking your foot off the gas collectively, offensively, defensively, that was the whole deal for Liam Cohen and the Jags in year one down there. Like, it's so funny, Lance. We have Mike McDonald on right before I jump on here with you. Like the last half hour of our show is always Coach McDonald. And he is so funny because for 15 years we had Coach Carroll. And Carroll was a little bit like Dabo. Like you ask him a question and it could be 5 minutes before you get the ball back, right? And it's going to wind and he's going to answer it and then answer like 4 other things. Mike, it's not that way. It's like, here it is. Here it is. So yesterday they're up 35-0, right? Like the most dominant first quarter and a half you could ever have. And Salk, my partner, is like, what's that feel like? He's like, what's it feel like? It's next play. What do you mean? What's it feel like? You think I celebrate? You think I'm over there like, throwing a party and crowning no, it's the next play and it's the next play. And it's like that Harbaugh in him that is always just on it. Like there's just like a tunnel vision. It was Chris Peterson, to me, was one of the greats at this at Boise State and Washington. Like, I just don't get involved in any of that other nonsense. And there's teams and organizations and cultures that do. And you take your foot off the gas and you don't play that next play. Yeah, you can find a way to lose, Lance, unfortunately, when you never should have lost.
Before we get to the mini Super Bowl in SoFi this weekend with your Seahawks and my Rams, and what a matchup between 2 7-2s, let's go back to the late window yesterday where it was complete domination. I mean, Dan Campbell takes over play calling for the Detroit Lions. I heard John Gruden this morning talking about anybody that takes over play calling against the Commanders is going to have success. But they put 44 up. Your team puts 44 up against the Cardinals. By the way, identical scores, 44-22 for the Lions and the Seahawks. And then the Rams, 42-26. Who was the most impressive in the afternoon window? And I will point out the Rams, 0 turnovers, 0 penalties on the road against San Francisco.
Yeah, I'd probably point to the Rams. I mean, 35-0 was almost flukish, right? 2 sack fumbles, same linebacker, same D lineman, DeMarcus Lawrence picking it up. So that almost is, and like by a split second, right? Where Jacoby Brissett's arm is just not going forward by a split second. And to get both of those just led to a cascade of dominance there that was almost an outlier. And Arizona's bad. Right? Their O-line is bad. It's a backup quarterback. They're down 3 starters on defense. Like, they're bad. And that's what you should do to bad teams. Yeah, I think in a rivalry game, in a division game for the Niners and Rams, it's always been tough. It's always been competitive. It's always been super feisty for them to really step on them the way they did. And now San Fran's obviously without so many of their stars, but to go into their building, unlike Seattle that hosted that thing, to go into their building and do that and make yet another statement in an MVP year for Matthew Stafford. Season ends today. Old Graybeard is the MVP of this league. And for them to do it in that kind of dominating fashion, running it, throwing it, defending it, I'd probably tip the cap to the Rams.
You remember when the transition and the evolution of offensive football and, no huddle and spread offenses, people love to be innovative and they like to get on to the next thing. So I want to ask you this, and this is terminology, and you're an expert that can break this down. I just watch the games and I see it a lot, but 13 personnel for the Rams. They have got 4 tight ends that are very athletic, very good hands, huge catch radiuses, and they're running out this 13 personnel all the time, which, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 receiver, 3 tight ends. And when you have these tight ends, that forces you to have safeties and linebackers on them, and they are thriving in this offense. And my question to you is, not only at the NFL level, but at the college level, if you could build a roster with really, really athletic tight ends, are we going to see more people running this 13 personnel because defenses can't figure it out?
Yeah. So terminology wise, the first number is always number of running backs. So one running back, 12 personnel, one running back, 2 tight ends, 13. So the receivers just kind of are accounted for outside of that. It's always running back and number of tight ends. So yes, they're doing a ton of it. The Seahawks are doing a ton of it. Shanahan has done a ton of it. Remember years ago, like 5-10 years ago, Lance, what was the innovation that Sean McVay did? He condensed everything, right? It was still multiple receivers. It wasn't 3 tight ends, but whether it was Cooper Kupp or those other receivers, they were blocking. They were engaged. They were sometimes pullers. They were edge, had the back edge and backside support and super engaged in that way. And so they just condensed the game. Now it is heavy people. Now it's heavy personnel. Now it's getting in heavy personnel, to your point, and still having a versatility and a flexibility like, you better put bigs on the field. We got 13 personnel, and if you don't put bigs on the field, we're going to run it. Oh, you're going to put littles on the field. Great. We got this kid out of Heritage High School right down the road from where I'm looking right now, third-round pick that can or second-round pick that can really run, and he could stretch the field like Travis Kelce can do. So great. You got big people on. He can win those matchups. So can Colby Parkinson and others. So, yeah, you really just try to put that defense in a bind. RPOs at the college level, right? It was such a thing. Like you just put the defense in conflict after the snap, run pass. What are you going to defend? Yeah, in the NFL, you can't do the RPO as much because linemen can't go down the field. So the way you put them in conflict is just this. Hey, man, we're going to get into personnel groups, and what you put on the field to defend it will then dictate our check with me. And if you got littles on the field, we'll run it. You put bigs on the field, we'll throw it. And right now, teams are having a really hard time defending both Stafford and Sam Darnold, the Rams and the Seahawks, who are doing that much better than everybody else in the game.
If you're doing your power rankings right now in the NFL, how long does it take you to get to an AFC team?
Yeah, they just feel, and isn't that amazing? Because 10 weeks ago, before we started the year, what did you and I come on and say? Like, oof, the AFC, right? Like
Bills,
Lamar, Burrow,
Ravens,
Josh, Mahomes.
Yeah, before Burrow gets hurt, if the defense has improved at all under Al Golden, you feel like the Bengals had a fighting shot with Burrow. But now, just watching that late window, I just think we're seeing the 3 best teams in the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Lions. Now, again, tonight we'll get to Eagles-Packers in a minute. Both of those teams are going to have something to say about it. But I don't know where, because, I was asked today on the show, who's the best team in the AFC? I mean, you could make an argument that it's New England based on the win in Tampa yesterday. Mm-hmm. But I think when it's all said and done, it's still going to be probably the Chiefs that'll be representing out in Santa Clara, the AFC. I think there's 5 or 6.
You're not buying the Colts? You're still not, because of Daniel, just in the turnovers the last couple of weeks, because their point differential, it's the Seahawks over plus 100, the highest they've ever been in the history of the franchise, by the way, at 9 weeks. And it's the Colts still sitting above that number. I think it's 113 or something insane. Still not buying the Colts.
Well, Jonathan Taylor, he absolutely can take over a game. I think Tyler Warren, you just need to utilize him a little bit more. And, I think Pittman's a really, really good receiver. It is Daniel Jones. And it's kind of going to be Darnold for you guys. Like, we saw him one time in the postseason last year against the Rams in a Minnesota uniform, and it didn't go well. So until, he can exercise those demons that are the postseason, much like Daniel Jones, at least Daniel Jones does have one postseason win, but you can't trust those guys until you see them do it at a high level. I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think that's fair, and I think that's the same thing with Drake May, because it probably would be Drake and Stafford for MVP conversation, and we know MVP doesn't guarantee you Super Bowl wins, but it typically puts your team right there in the final chase for it. And those guys are just elevated everybody and played phenomenally. Denver's one-dimensional. Bo has regressed, and their offense doesn't have a lot of firepower. They are unbelievable on defense. I mean, the Seahawks are tied for second in the league with 32 sacks, Lance, from 15 different guys, by the way.
That's crazy.
So that'll be a little different for Matthew to prepare for this weekend. Denver's got 46 sacks. 46. Number 2 is 32. 46 in a season is like a great mark, winning defense. They've got 7 games still to go. They may should shatter the all-time single record easily, and they're doing it the same way. They've got 16 guys in those 46 sacks. So they are elite defensively. The Colts, I think, are fairly elite in their run game with an absolute star, and they're all in. They went for it. But yes, I think to your point, the NFC has balance. The Rams are balanced. The Seahawks are balanced. The Eagles are fairly balanced. I think the Packers are still balanced, though lacking some firepower. And I think that complementary ball, once again, complementary ball, we come back to that, and balance tends to be the most predictive here down the stretch of a season.
I think for a lot of fans, playing up and down the competition can be maddening, and that's what you get with the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they play their best football against the best teams, and then you lose to Cleveland and you lose to Carolina. Packers now hosting the Eagles at home tonight. The Eagles have a baffling loss, too, where they lost by 17 to New York. Packers -1.5 here. Do you like one of these teams better than the other?
This is where? Is it in Green Bay or in Philly?
In Green Bay.
Yeah, I like Green Bay, man. And this is probably based on a bias and a narrative of my own life experience and watching so many Seahawks teams through the years try to go into that place in big games. It is so hard to play there. They play off of their cheeseheads, and I think it'll be to that point. I think it'll be a one possession game late in the game, but after a couple head scratchers, I think they look around the NFC and know as well, like, you can't give these away, right? The Rams, if you want that home field advantage, right, when it matters in the playoffs, these are kind of the must-win games that you have to have in conference play against somebody in Philadelphia that's going to be there in the end in the standings as well. I would expect a pretty hyper-focused effort out of the Pack.
Yeah, look, and home field advantage is absolutely huge, especially in the NFC, because of the variety of places you can play. Like for the Rams, if they've got SoFi, I don't think it affects the other team, but it's a benefit that the Rams, I mean, the last two times they've lost in the postseason, 2 years ago to Detroit, in the first, Detroit home playoff game in forever. And then last year they had to go in the snow and play Philadelphia down to a final possession. Yeah. So, like, you don't want to play in Green Bay. You don't want to play in Philadelphia. You don't want to play in Seattle. So, like, as insignificant as some people believe 7-2 versus 7-2 this early in the season is, this could be the one game that gets you home field advantage.
Absolutely. In those conference, you look at tiebreakers, obviously it's head-to-head, and then it's division, and then it's conference. So you get into these conference games, can you lose an outlier to an AFC team? It hurts you a little bit less, but these down the stretch, and Sunday is going to be just awesome. I mean, so we'll chat, I'm sure, off of the air leading up to it, and I know you're going to be out there, which will be an absolute blast. But these two teams, even asking Coach McDonald today on the air, like, if you'd taken a peek, he's like, yeah, we've seen them in crossover tape, and I watched their defense this morning, and they do the same things. They play similar simulated pressures defensively. They don't have to blitz and rush a whole bunch. Their front affects the game. QBs are playing unbelievably efficient. You got multiple weapons. You got big tight ends. The one key, if the Seahawks are going to do this thing Sunday, Lance, and we're a long ways between now and then, is special teams. That's where the Rams have been a disaster. That's where the Seahawks have been phenomenal. And for the old Rams down the stretch here, they're going to have to figure that thing out.
Kicker thicker, man, or thicker kicker. Harold Mevis.
Kicker thicker, thicker kicker.
I don't know how confident Sean McVay is. He did make all his extra points, so that's a start. Cardi wasn't doing that. But, there was a 4th and 3, and it would have been a 45-yard-ish field goal yesterday. And it was still a pivotal moment where the Rams were up 7, and they decide to go for it, and they ultimately get it, and they score a touchdown. But I was like, do you want to at least roll him out there to give him, in-game situation and kind of a critical moment? I actually like the Seahawks, and I'm not saying that for a fact. I mean, it's a 2.5-point spread. You guys are the one team that scare me to death right now in the NFC, just because of that rush defense, and you're talking about a physical team. Yeah. But, Darnold, I still don't know.
Yep. And I think that is, a narrative that he's got to keep rewriting, and big games and big moments. It's funny because the numbers are off the charts, and Daniel Jeremiah and Joel Klatt are guests of ours on a regular during the week. And this was the first time that Daniel brought up the name Joe Burrow. And I was like, his accuracy and his processing, and man, he has been so good. I'm talking about Sam Darnold this year. But the difference is, and I think Stafford had to overcome this. I think there's some, honestly, years, I think this is year 8 or 9 for Darnold. In year 8 or 9, Stafford was still the same that Darnold is. And that is, when it breaks down, we just kind of, not flinch, but you just panic. You just get little, a little frantic. That's the word I was looking for. A little frantic, and the ball pops out, or the ball gets thrown off of a helmet, or just something weird, right? And that was Stafford in Detroit. Super productive, high volume guy. Took a team to the playoffs. Bad organization, elevated all of it. But then it was really when he got to LA that you just see pretty calm and cool, man. Oh, you guys want to blitz? I'll just throw it away. Yeah, I'll just throw it away. I'll live to play another day. Because if I get enough at bats like Freddie Freeman or Ohtani, I'm going to hit a home run and I'm going to make you pay. And that is where I think there's still some growth for Sam Darnold.
Look, I think both of these teams could easily be 9-0. And you go back the Tampa game, the San Fran game for you guys, and Eagles and San Fran for the Rams. I mean, this could easily be 9-0 versus 9-0. Sam Darnold, first year starting quarterback. Max Brown was the guy in 2016 until that Friday night Utah game. Were you calling that game when Sam Darnold got his first start?
Nope.
Utah walked it off with a field goal last second, but that was their only loss the remainder of the year. Like, that team completely changed on a dime. And, my point was going to be, I think Sam Darnold, this is the best he has played since his first season as a full starter with USC.
Well, there's no question. He's got, we were looking up, again, these numbers are just silly. He's got 3 games this year, Lance, with a QBR, right? A scale of 1 to 100. And if you're in the 60s, you're playing winning football. He's got 3 games this year at 97-1, 97-3, 97-8. He didn't have a 90 QB rating even with Minnesota last year when they were 14-3. So he's had 3 of those suckers. It's just off the charts. In fact, 2 of his interceptions have been tips, either off of a helmet or off of hands. Like, he has been, and his accuracy has just downfield has been elite. It's been the best in the league. It's him and Stafford. It's Stafford and Darnold. It's Darnold and Stafford. And it's what's going to make this Sunday just compelling theater.
Okay, you're no
and
longer...
you and I, one of us is going to come away just tickled, and one of us is going to be real pissed next Monday.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to be pissed if I pay money to go see it. Like, you can be a different kind of pissed on your couch,
Yes.
So
for sure.
So So you're not taking snaps anymore. You're not in the booth with Benetti. Back to the first segment here, the first thing we talked about with USC and Iowa. But you are a coach on the sidelines for Titus, and your team had a bye last week, right? So first round of the playoffs this week.
Yep. It is. Get our only guaranteed home playoff game because of a couple losses in the midseason that were just gut.
Are y'all favored here, though?
No.
Oh,
Number 5 seed. So, got kind of some tough farm boys this weekend that come up and challenge you physically. So this will be, every one of these will be a down. We got to play good football. If we play really, really good football, especially offensively, what we're capable of, we can make some noise. But now it gets playoff time. It gets real.
Okay, I got to bring this up because you and I are kind of close in age. So my son, big movie guy, we went to see the 40th anniversary re-release, director's cut, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky versus Drago. And so we went last Thursday night. When we got there, they were like, oh, yeah, it was posted wrong. We don't have Rocky until Sunday. So we went to Back to the Future. They did a 40th anniversary, too. It was great. So we went back last night after the Rams win and saw Rocky 4. Growing up, you looked a little like Drago back in the day. Were you a fan
you saying I don't anymore? Or are you saying I've gotten kind of soft?
It was just, looking at that dude, and he turned 68 this past week. Dolph Lundgren did. But looking at him in the ring, it looked like a chiseled Barbie doll. Like, it didn't even look real watching that footage last night. But were you a big fan of the Rocky franchise, and which one was your favorite?
Are you kidding me? Do you even have to ask?
I don't.
Do you really?
I got chills again when he won. I knew he was going to beat Drago.
As a poor white trash, son of a coach kid by the Puyallup Fair, do you think we were fans of the Rocky series? Do you think I didn't know Clubber Lang inside and out? Apollo Creed, the battles. And then you get to Rocky IV, and you get to Drago. You get East versus West, the movie that ended the Cold War.
It did.
If I could do it, then you can do it. The sense of belief that cultivated. You don't think I, on our shed in the backyard, set up a sit-up, bar so I could do sit-ups like Rocky Balboa did?
Physically,
you don't think I go running through the roads of Puyallup, get to the top of Cemetery Hill, and yell. Of course I did, Lance.
I told
Of
my
course
son
I
too.
did.
You know, he's seen it 4 or 5 times. It's his second favorite outside of the original. But I said, you know, the good thing about when we grew up, that was the biggest rivalry that we will ever experience was the Soviet Union and the United States back during the Cold War.
Yes.
That meant so much. Again, I still get chills watching Rocky Balboa take down Drago. But the other thing, like I told him going into the movie, I had no idea, spoiler alert, 40 years later, that Apollo Creed was going to die in the exhibition match with Drago. And like, I just remember sitting there with friends and we're like, holy hell, how did Apollo just get killed in the ring? But nowadays, I told him, like all these spoilers and reels and social media, everybody would know what was going on.
Sure. Are you telling me you don't have this on your workout playlist? Do you not have this? I mean, when I train the kids and have trained them in the garage gym in the house, you don't think this comes on? And you don't think I start yelling?
Well, I can't hear it.
I mean,
Wait, put it a little closer.
It's been 40 years.
Put it a little closer.
And this still gets me going every workout, Lance. Still gets me going.
Now, is that the original Rocky theme? I couldn't hear it.
No, oh, you couldn't hear.
No.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. No, that's war. That was him training. That was him running.
Okay.
The Russians were trying to watch his workouts.
Yeah.
That was him chopping wood. That was him throwing boulders. That was
it's-
him getting to the top of the mountain.
I mean, so many good like musical sequences in that movie when he gets in the Countach
good.
and he's just flying through
so good.
Philadelphia
It's
and
just so good.
having the flashbacks of Apollo, and then when the plane's coming into Siberia, just
You're
great
going to
stuff.
fight on Christmas Day, Rock, in Russia? Yeah.
And Polly
we're
didn't
gonna
like
do
that. I looked over at my son. I was like, can you imagine if we had Christmas night viewing like this? The NBA is one thing, and we've got the NFL now. But, man, to have, you know, a battle like that.
so good.
Just, yeah, great stuff.
So good.
Always great stuff with you. Good luck this week. Not with the Seahawks. We want them to go down. But we
Right.
need another fight on Trojans victory. Good luck to
Yep.
Titus and
We'll
your
take it.
guys. And, yeah, it should be a big week for you.
Be awesome, man. Be awesome. Playoff time. This is when it gets real, right? In November, all these conversations we have in the college realm, the SEC has got to be so fun for you guys, Lance. It's crazy. It's coaching changes. It's close games each and every week. You know, for all of the issues and all of the warts that the transactional nature of college football has, you get down to it here down the stretch, and it is compelling stuff, man. Fun.
Well, you know, I don't over-exaggerate. I love doing this show every Monday with you. Always great stuff, great insight. Talk a lot of NFL and just have a lot of fun. But, again, good luck this week. I will be in
Thank
touch
you.
with you 100%. Be safe out there. It is Brock Hewitt. It is Unlocked right here on our Next Round platform. Like, subscribe, give us the thumbs up. And you do. I mean, he's got Viking / Russian blood, Drago. That is Brock Hewitt every Monday right here on Unlocked. Have a great week.
See you, bud.